Homelessness is something that we all encounter, probably on a daily basis, but it's not always something that we truly see, let alone understand. While working at Search, my eyes have been opened, and I have come to look at people who are experiencing homelessness in an entirely different light. Tonight, I'd like to share with you some of what I've learned. As I started to think about homelessness and my work in the context of Judaism, I realized that some of the most basic Jewish teachings and values are inextricably woven into the work that I'm a part of, and even the story of how I came to work at Search. You see, in my former life, in other words, before I had children, I was an attorney at one of the big firms in town. I liked it well enough, but it left me feeling kind of empty. When I had kids, who are somehow now 27 and 25, I was fortunate to be able to stay home with them for a number of years. And when it was time to go back to work, I wanted to do something I found more fulfilling. Growing up here at Emmanuel, I of course learned about Tikkun Olam, Tzedakah, Mitzvot. Those concepts are ingrained into us. They become a core part of our value systems. We are taught from an early age of our responsibility to make the world a better place. And I grew up watching my mother, who beautifully lit the candles this evening, live out those values, always involved in important causes or issues that she cared deeply about, and often bringing me and my sister along too. We stuffed mailings, we marched for dimes, we walked for Israel. As an adult, I would sit in High Holy Day services each year and vow to myself and to God that this would be the year that I would do some meaningful volunteer work in the community. But I never managed to find that balance that allowed me to feel like I was truly making a difference. So when I went back to work, I decided to work in the nonprofit world, and development and fundraising was my entry into that world. And whether it was fate or sheer good luck, my journey ultimately led me to Search. Search had always been one of my favorite organizations. My mom and stepfather had been involved since the very beginning when Search was founded out of Emmanuel's Social Action Committee by Shelley Cypress, and Emmanuel has remained involved to this day more than 30 years later. So it's no wonder that Search, its practices, and its values are heavily influenced by Jewish values and beliefs. One of Judaism's core teachings is that we shall love our neighbors as ourselves. In writing about this concept during the Civil Rights era, Rabbi Joachim Prinz observed that neighbor is not a geographic term, it is a moral concept. It means our collective responsibility for the preservation of man's dignity and integrity. In so many ways, that is at the core of the work we do at Search. From day one, it was of the utmost importance to our founder, Shelley, that everyone who walked through the doors at Search be treated with dignity and respect. Now, I will confess, when I first started working at Search, I wasn't sure how comfortable I would be around our clients. Homelessness was a cause I cared about, but I had never actually met a homeless person, and I was more than a little nervous about it. But that changed the first time I went out with our street outreach team. When we pulled up to an encampment, I saw how our team knew everyone by name and how they knew our staff by name, how happy they were to see the Search team, and a level of camaraderie that I hadn't expected. They were so grateful for the help and kindness and to simply have someone to listen to them. As I talked to them and heard their stories, I quickly saw that they're just people, no different than you or me, and I realized that homelessness could happen to anyone. Homelessness happens for a multitude of reasons. It might be job loss, domestic violence, mental illness. The reasons are varied, but there's one common denominator: poverty. For many individuals and families, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and one unfortunate event, losing a job, a major illness in the family, a devastating hurricane, a pandemic, pushes them over the brink and into homelessness. And once someone becomes homeless, it's very hard to pull yourself out without some help. Homelessness could happen to any one of us. The difference? For most of us in this room, we have family and friends to be there for us in times of need, to help us through the hard times. Most of Search's clients don't. Take, for instance, Jasmine. After years on the streets, Jasmine entered into one of Search's housing programs. In her enrollment paperwork, under emergency contacts, Jasmine wrote in a big scrawl, God. It was a beautiful expression of faith, but also a sad reminder that Jasmine had no one else to call. Or take Wendell. In my development role at Search, I don't often work directly with our clients, but I got to know Wendell when he allowed us to feature him in a video for our annual fundraiser, and we became friends. Abused as a child, Wendell left home as a teen and would struggle with homelessness for more than 20 years. I thought if I practiced this enough, I wouldn't get emotional, but sorry. While living on the street, Wendell turned to drugs as a coping mechanism. He was arrested for possession, and when he got out of jail, he vowed to turn his life around. That's when he connected with Search, and we began to help him do just that. Wendell desperately wanted to work. He'd been trying to find a job, but it's not so easy when you can't even take a shower, you have nowhere to leave your few belongings, and you have no transportation. And on top of all that, Wendell's criminal record automatically disqualified him from many jobs. But Wendell persisted and at last found a job at Phoenicia downtown. But what Wendell wanted more than anything was to have a safe place to call home. And finally, after 25 years of living on the streets, Wendell was approved for housing. But there were still barriers. Wendell spent another 4 months on the street before he could find a landlord who would accept him despite his criminal background. The day he finally moved into his apartment, he said he felt like he had everything he needed to be happy. Wendell turned 55 that year. He had never had a birthday party or a birthday cake of his own, and he came to celebrate his birthday at Search with all the people who had helped him through his difficult journey. Wendell was doing great. He loved his apartment, he loved his job, and they loved him. He was doing so well financially that he was on a path to graduating from our housing program and living independently. And then Wendell had his first stroke. The years of living on the street had taken their toll on Wendell's health. Wendell wanted nothing more than to go back to work, but every time he got close, he would have another health setback. When Wendell would end up in the hospital, he would usually call me. I'd bring him a toothbrush and toothpaste, a razor and shaving cream, and one of the crime novels that he enjoyed reading. But what he really wanted was the company. One of the times that I visited Wendell in the hospital, he was so scared and overwhelmed with all the doctors and information. When the doctors asked him if he had any family they could call, he just shook his head and said no. Search was his family. Last year, 5 years after moving into his apartment, Wendell was planning to celebrate his 60th birthday once again at Search. But Wendell ended up back in the hospital, and last December, after months in the hospital, Wendell passed away. Through it all, Wendell never gave up hope. He always had a smile on his face and a kind word for others. He was grateful for all he had, and he would thank God for each new day. Wendell is but one of the thousands of people we help at Search every year, each with their own story, their own challenges, their own hopes and dreams. Over the past 10 years, Houston has reduced homelessness by over 60% and helped more than 25,000 men, women, and children, like Wendell and Jasmine, move back into homes of their own. Each one is someone's son or daughter, sister or brother. Each one is our neighbor. Despite our community's remarkable progress, we still have work to do. With the lingering effects of the pandemic, soaring inflation, and rising rents, more people will find themselves in need of help. And with a severe shortage of affordable housing options, our work only becomes harder. One of the questions I get asked the most is what to do when a homeless person asks for money. Our official answer is to discourage giving money, which only helps people stay out on the streets longer. Admittedly, there are times that I still give money to someone, even knowing it might be better spent supporting agencies like Search that offer long-term solutions by helping people get back into a home of their own, regain their stability, and rebuild their lives. But whether we hand someone $1 or not, what we can all do is see them, acknowledge them, as we would any other neighbor. Make eye contact, wave, smile, say hello. Let them know they're not invisible or unseen. Homelessness is not who they are. It's something that they're experiencing, and it doesn't have to define them. I came across a quote recently that spoke to me. We are not all in the same boat. We are in the same storm. Some have yachts, some have canoes, and some are drowning. I couldn't help but think of Wendell and all the men, women, and children we serve at Search. Our duty to love our neighbor compels us to give them a hand up out of the stormy water and help them safely to shore. I am grateful to have known Wendell and called him my friend, and I'm grateful to work at a place like Search that means so much to people, that gave so much to Wendell, that showed him neighborly love and treated him with dignity, that became Wendell's family and community of support, and that gave Wendell a second chance when no one else would. As we prepare to start the new year, may we all remember to love our neighbors as ourselves. May we truly see our homeless neighbors and view them as our brothers and sisters. May we look at them with understanding, kindness, and compassion. May we pray for the day when no one must sleep on our streets and when everyone in our community knows the safety and comfort of a place to call home. Shabbat Shalom.